In 2089, Captain Mara Jensen received an order that would brand humanity cowards for 300 years. The First Galactic War had been grinding on for 4 decades.
They're pulling us out. Now, when the battle is still raging, the order gives no reason. All ships, disengage. We're withdrawing.
The crew hesitated, then obeyed. The small Earth fleet peeled away from the formation, leaving their allies to the fight. Within hours, the Coalition War Council convened an emergency session. Chairman Voron's elongated skull and red eyes were vivid with fury.
The humans have abandoned us without a word. This is cowardice. I move that we sever all diplomatic ties immediately.
The vote was unanimous. Humanity was expelled from the Coalition. Their ambassadors were sent home in disgrace. And so, in 2089, Earth vanished from the galactic stage. The war raged on, and the Coalition's fury hardened into a myth. Humans were unreliable, weak. No explanation came from Earth. No apology, no justification. Just silence. The galaxy would not hear from humanity again for 300 years. 300 years passed. The war never ended. It only grew hungrier, consuming entire civilizations in its fire. Trillions perished. The Coalition and Krellic hegemony fed populations into the war machine, fighting over worlds reduced to ash. By 2389, the 14 sectors were charred husks, resources depleted. The dead outnumbered the living in a dozen systems. The once mighty fleets were now patchworks of salvaged hulls. Their crews were hollow-eyed veterans of a war that never let them rest. A Coalition casualty report. 2389. Total confirmed dead. 2.3 trillion sentients. A path to victory is no longer discernible. The Krellic hegemony fared no better. Their spawning worlds were silent. Their warrior castes nearly extinct. Admirals on both sides stared at maps that no longer made sense. The front lines had not moved in a decade. By late 2389, both fleets faced each other across a debris field, too exhausted to fire, too proud to retreat. The war had become its own justification. No one remembered why it started, only that it must continue. And so the galaxy held its breath, waiting for a savior, a disaster, or the final silence. 2 years after the stalemate, Chairman Voron's sensors lit up. An unknown fleet had appeared at the edge of the war zone.
The IFF signature reads, Earth. That cannot be correct.
But it was correct. 800 ships dropped out of hyperspace, sleek and angular. Designs no living officer had ever seen.
Get me fleet command. I want a full tactical scan, and someone raise the Krellics. This changes everything.
Aboard the lead vessel, a name stenciled on the hull, the Patience. On its bridge, Admiral Joshua studied the same data with calm detachment.
They're scrambling, exactly as predicted. Prepare a wide-band hail. I want both sides to hear this directly.
The name was not a boast. It was a mission statement.
3 centuries. Where have they been? What do they want?
The Earth fleet held formation, unmoving, as Coalition and Krellic ships scrambled to reorient. The war, spanning 14 sectors, suddenly felt insignificant. A single channel opened. Admiral Joshua's voice would be the first human voice any of them had heard in 300 years.
Cease all hostilities within 38 hours. Accept Earth's binding arbitration, refuse, and we end this war by ending both sides.
The ultimatum was broadcast simultaneously to every Coalition and Krellic command frequency.
This is absurd. They have been absent 3 centuries, and now they threaten us.
Chairman Voron muted the channel and laughed bitterly. He was certain it was a bluff.
Earth dares to command us. We will grind them into dust. They are still the cowards who fled.
Supreme Commander Zarvax's response was laced with contempt and old rage.
38 hours. The clock is running. Use the time wisely.
Both sides dismissed the ultimatum. The war had been their entire existence. They could not conceive of an end dictated by outsiders.
They cannot have rebuilt so much. It must be a trick.
And so the countdown began, with Earth's fleet silent and immovable. and the galaxy's war machines still grinding against each other.
Send the 7th Battle Group, a full volley. Let's see if their shields are as impressive as their ultimatum.
From the Coalition flagship, Chairman Vorin watched his battle group open fire. A full volley of plasma torpedoes streaked toward Earth's immobile formation. The torpedoes never reached their targets. A shimmering barrier enveloped each Earth vessel, absorbing the plasma in silent efficiency.
Stand down. This is your only warning. The next volley will be met with force.
The battle group commander ignored the warning and ordered another salvo. On the Patience, Admiral Joshua's eyes narrowed with cold finality. He gave a single nod. From the heart of the fleet, a spherical wave of energy erupted, sweeping outward faster than light. Aboard the Coalition cruisers, every weapons console went dead simultaneously. Shields, targeting, reactors, all dead. The ships were silent tombs.
Impossible. They have disabled us without firing a single shot.
Across the sector, commanding officers stared at their readouts in horror. The invincibility of Earth's technology was undeniable. Earth's fleet had not moved. It had absorbed a full attack and replied by extinguishing an entire battle group's combat capability. The bluff was over. News of the disabled Coalition battle group reached Supreme Commander Zarvax within minutes. His first instinct was denial, then fury.
A trick! The humans have not changed. I will prove it with fire.
He ordered his personal strike fleet into action. 100 Karelic warships surged forward, weapon banks glowing hot. The Krellic volley hit Earth's formation and vanished. Shields shimmered, absorbing the energy like a predator drinking light. On the Krellic flagship, alarms shrieked as the same spherical wave erupted from Earth's fleet, racing toward them. The wave washed over them. Every weapons console on the Krellic ships went dead. Shields, engines, communications. Total silence.
This is impossible. My fleet is helpless.
The disabling wave did not stop. It propagated through hyperspace relays, cascading into adjacent sectors. Chairman Vorin watched his war map as more sectors turned dark. His earlier laughter was now a distant memory. Both leaders were shaken, but pride and centuries of hate still held them back from surrender. The countdown continued. Hour by hour, the wave expanded. Coalition engineers tried to reroute power to bypass the shutdown, but every attempt ended in failure. The Krellics attempted a manual override, physically reconnecting weapons to backup capacitors. The wave simply flowed through the metal, indifferent. Aboard the Patience, Admiral Joshua observed the data stream with the same calm expression he had worn since arrival. The map in Chairman Vorin's war room grew darker by the minute. Curses and shouted orders gave way to stunned silence. By the 20th hour, every major weapons platform across 14 sectors was offline. The greatest military forces in the galaxy had become floating hulks. Earth had not fired a single missile, had not launched a single fighter. The war had been ended by an absence of violence. On the Krellic command deck, a young officer broke protocol and suggested surrender. Zarvax backhanded him to the floor, but his fury was hollow. Vorin sat motionless, staring at the map, his elongated skull casting a long shadow. There were no options left. 20 hours remaining on the clock. The Earth fleet remained perfectly still, as if time itself had abandoned the galaxy. Joshua waited. 3 centuries of planning had taught him the deadliest weapon was not fire, but patience. By hour 30, the last weapons platform across 14 sectors flickered and died. The galaxy's war machines were now cold metal in silence. Chairman Vorin tried to hail the Patience. Every channel returned only a steady carrier wave. No response, no acknowledgement.
They're not even listening. We are beneath their notice.
Supreme Commander Zarvax broadcast threats and demands on every frequency, his voice echoing through empty comms. The Earth fleet remained mute.
They treat us like insects. For 3 centuries, they have planned this humiliation.
Both leaders understood. They were entirely at Earth's mercy. The wave had not just stripped weapons, it had stripped their authority. With 8 hours left, a channel opened from the Patience. Vorin and Zarvax waited for words. None came. Only the low hum of an open line. The silence was more terrifying than any thunder. It promised nothing, and that void was absolute.
What do they want? Must we beg for their mercy?
The clock ticked down, and for the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy waited for Earth to speak. At hour 32, Admiral Joshua's voice finally broke the silence.
You have 6 hours. Accept binding arbitration, or I will disable your communications. You will face your end in complete isolation.
The threat was absolute. Without communications, their empires would dissolve into chaos, and no one would even know how the end came.
He would do it. The human does not bluff.
On a private channel, Chairman Vorin and Supreme Commander Zarvax spoke for the first time in decades without hatred.
We must accept. There is no other path.
Agreed. Let them broker peace. We have no choice.
A joint message was sent to the patients, the Coalition, and Krellic hegemony accept the ceasefire terms.
Ceasefire accepted. Shuttles will now be provided. You will meet us at the neutral station for arbitration.
The galaxy exhaled. After 340 years, the war was over. At the neutral station, Earth Marines escorted Chairman Vorin and Supreme Commander Zarvax through cold corridors into a triangular hall. The table had 3 sides. The human delegation already occupied the head, Admiral Joshua seated at its center, waiting.
We are not delegates. We are prisoners.
This is no negotiation. It is a trial.
When the last aides were seated, Joshua rose. The room fell into immediate, absolute silence.
This arbitration is not a negotiation. Earth will propose the terms. You will listen. Then you will agree.
He did not ask for objections. The only alternative to agreement was the total isolation he had promised. Their empires silent before the mass graves they had dug.
He means to dictate our future and call it peace.
Admiral Joshua called up the holographic documents. The lines of text were a mirror of his ultimatum: disarmament, reparations, binding oversight. A peace shaped in Earth's image. The power had shifted, not through conquest, but through 3 centuries of silent, terrible patience. The arbitration had begun. The first clause was disarmament, complete and permanent. All military vessels beyond system defense were to be scrapped under Earth's supervision.
Reparations will be paid to 712 systems in proportion to their losses. Earth will audit the funds.
You demand we lay down our fleets and hand over our economies. You are not a mediator. You are a conqueror.
I am a man holding your trigger. Conquerors are merciful by comparison. Accept the terms, or I will find leaders who will.
We will not be your slaves. The Krellic hegemony will fight until the last scale if pushed too far.
You have no scales left to fight with. Your ships are cold. Your warriors are unarmed. Do not mistake my calm for a negotiation.
He means every word. We are already defeated.
Zarvax's claws retracted. He stared at the table, then nodded once. The fight had gone out of him.
Good. Then we proceed. The framework is accepted. Details will be completed by your councils. Earth will oversee compliance.
The framework of surrender had been laid. The empires that had burned galaxies now sat in silence, waiting for Earth to write their future. The next days blurred into a haze of legal clauses and forced concessions. When the treaty was finally complete, a fragile silence settled over the hall.
Before we sign, Admiral, answer me one question. Where has Earth been for 3 centuries?
The question hung in the air, freezing every being in the room. Even the aides stopped breathing. Admiral Joshua's expression did not change. He looked at Vorin, and his silence was absolute.
You cannot ignore us. Where were you while our worlds burned? Answer. Human.
Joshua remained still. His calm was a wall that would not break.
He will not tell us whatever they did. It is too terrible or too sacred to speak.
Zarvax's fury crumbled into a bitter silence. There was no force left in him to demand what would not be given. Admiral Joshua waited. He had learned patience across 3 centuries. This silence was merely another weapon, the question would hang unanswered. Earth's secret remained buried in the years no one would speak of. Admiral Joshua reached beneath the table and produced a small, aged wooden frame. The room went utterly still. He set it on the table, facing the Coalition and Krellic delegates. The document inside was yellowed with age.
The order that removed Earth from this war contained a message. It reads, "We knew we couldn't end it with the technology we had. We left to build technology that could. We came back when we were ready."
Captain Mara Jensen had signed that order in 2089, its true purpose hidden even from her.
That is the only answer you will receive. The Longview program remains classified.
A deep silence swallowed the hall. Voron's red eyes fixed on the frame. Zarvax's claws lay limp.
A riddle. They left, built an empire of secrets, and returned to our graves.
They speak of patience, but they are ghosts. We may never know what they paid.
The framed order sat on the table like a tombstone for a secret that would live another 2 centuries. Joshua's expression did not waver. Earth's past would remain a wound no one was allowed to touch. Chairman Voron picked up the stylus as if it were a poisoned dagger. His elongated skull dipped, red eyes fixed on the signature line.
3 centuries I waged this war, and I end it with the stroke of a pen.
The stylus moved. The signature bloomed in light. A ripple of finality passed through the room. Zarvax took the stylus next, his claws trembling with contained fury. The Krellic hegemony was yielding to a race it had mocked.
I sign because there is nothing left. But my hatred will not die with this treaty.
His claw pressed down. The second seal was set. The Coalition and Krellic empires had both signed their surrender. Admiral Joshua rose and took the stylus. His hand was steady, his face unreadable.
By the authority of Earth, I accept this treaty as binding. The First Galactic War is over.
The holographic treaty blazed brighter, then compressed into a sealed document. The names of 3 civilizations glowed in the air. Silence in the hall. No celebration, no relief. Just the sound of 3 empires breathing for the first time in 340 years. The treaty's effects were immediate. Across 14 sectors, weapons that had not fired began to be dismantled under Earth's watch. News of the peace spread like wildfire. On dozens of worlds, crowds of every species poured into the streets. Some wept. Some stood in stunned silence. The war had been their entire existence, and now it was simply over. Earth's fleet withdrew to a cordon around the neutral station, leaving only a small enforcement squadron to oversee disarmament.
Earth will monitor compliance. We will not interfere in your affairs beyond the treaty's terms. The Longview remains a closed file. No further information will be provided.
The phrase "long view" ignited a firestorm of speculation. Journalists probed every source, but Earth's silence was impermeable. Classified documents were glimpsed, their headers reading "long view," classified 2591. No further detail was found. The galaxy celebrated its peace, but Earth remained a question mark at the center of the galaxy. The war was over. The secret was not, and the galaxy would learn nothing more for 200 years. Years bled into decades. Admiral Joshua retired on a quiet estate, far from the corridors of power and the echoes of war.
The uniform is gone, but the weight remains. Every day I carry the silence of 3 centuries.
The only relic he kept was the framed withdrawal order from 2089 hanging on his study wall. It became his confessor. He never spoke of Longview again. The galaxy's questions faded into legend, and the official file remained sealed.
They will never know. Some sacrifices cannot be measured, only borne.
Visitors came occasionally, historians, reporters, seeking the truth of humanity's return. He offered them tea and silence. The Patience was decommissioned, turned into a museum. A plaque on the hull read, "We came back when we were ready." The Longview file remained sealed until 2591. 200 years of patience added to the 300 already paid.
We came back when we were ready. I only hope it was enough.
And the galaxy, still ignorant, simply remembered him as the man who ended the war. But the order on his wall knew the truth. Decades after the peace, a joint memorial ceremony was announced. For the first time, Coalition and Krellic leaders would stand together to honor the war dead.
They are remembering the dead. Finally, the dead are more important than the hate.
The broadcast began. Across the galaxy, billions watched. Joshua sat alone, the framed order on the wall behind him. At the monument, leaders laid wreaths side by side. The silence was heavy with the weight of trillions of names.
They finally understood. Peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of those who remember.
Joshua rose and walked to the framed order. His hand rested on the glass, over the signatures.
This is why we left. Not for glory, but for this day when enemies could honor their dead together.
His face showed sorrow, vindication, and a quiet, fragile peace. The ceremony continued, but for him it was complete.
We came back when we were ready, and it was enough.
Outside his window, the galaxy celebrated a peace built on a secret. Inside, an old man finally let go. The ceremony reached its culmination. A eulogy for the trillions lost, delivered by a voice that once called for genocide. Words of peace, fragile as glass, were spoken into the silence. The galaxy listened, and for a moment the hate was forgotten. In his study, Joshua sat motionless, the broadcast painting his face in flickering light. Each sentence was a hammer blow and a salve. He rose, his old bones creaking, and walked to the framed order on the wall. The journey of a few steps covered 3 centuries. His hand touched the glass, over the signatures of those long dead. The weight of the secret pressed against his palm.
We came back when we were ready.
The whisper was a private echo of the Prime Directive, spoken only to the ghosts who had signed it with him. On the screen, wreaths were laid. In the room, an old soldier finally understood that his watch was over. The lines of worry smoothed. The cold satisfaction he had worn for decades melted into a quiet, fragile peace. The screen faded to black. His expression remained, a relic of a war that had ended, and a secret that never would. The Patience was decommissioned, its hull a monument. A museum grew around it, a shrine to the war that ended in silence. A small bronze plaque hung near the airlock, unassuming. Its engraving was simple. We came back when we were ready. School children visited, reading sanitized tales of the conflict. The real cost lived only in classified files and in the memory of the old. The long view file remained untouched, its header still read, classified 2591. 200 years of patience still ahead. The original withdrawal order was placed in the museum too, behind sealed glass. Joshua's estate had donated it without explanation. Visitors paused before it, reading the faded signatures. They understood nothing, but they felt the weight. The galaxy remembered the war, but not the secret. Earth remained silent, a guardian of a truth too expensive to speak. The classification held, a seal on a wound that would not be reopened for another 2 centuries. The mystery was cemented, and the question, "Where were you?" was answered only by the silent engines of the Patience and a plaque that knew the truth. The war was over. The secret held. The long view continued. In the quiet of the museum, the framed order sat alone, bathed in a gentle, forgiving light. The signatures were faint. The ink faded, but the words still held their power. A few meters away, the bronze plaque waited, its message as patient as the ship it honored. It did not explain. It only stated what had been and what would remain. Visitors passed by, some pausing, some moving on. They carried the silence with them. The Patience itself stood in the distance, a silent sentinel to the truth. And in the digital archives, the long view files still glowed red, classified 2591. A child asked her parent what it meant. The parent had no answer. No one did. The secret would outlive them all, waiting for a generation that might be ready to hear it. But that was another story, for another century. This one ends here, in the silence of the museum, with the words, "We came back when we were ready." Outside the museum, the galaxy basked in an unfamiliar peace. The sun warmed the plaza, and the air was free of sirens. Children from a dozen species chased each other around a fountain, their laughter a sound that had once been extinct. That laughter was the true monument Earth had built. Not of stone, but of absence, the absence of war. Above them, the Patience rested in orbit, a museum ship now, its weapons forever silent. Tourists aboard peered at the preserved bridge, trying to imagine the calm voice that had commanded empires to kneel. On the ground, a new memorial rose, its stones engraved with names from both sides, carved by joint hands, unthinkable 3 centuries ago. Now, an ordinary Tuesday, the galaxy had not forgotten the war, but it had learned to remember without hate. Whether the peace would last, no one knew. But for now, children played, and that was enough. In orbit, the Patience kept its silent watch, a guardian of a secret that would sleep for another 2 centuries. Inside the museum, the bronze plaque rested under a narrow beam of light. Its message had not changed in 200 years. The words were as patient as the ship they honored. A statement, not an explanation. In the polished metal, a ghost of the Patience drifted, a reflection of the ship that had carried the secret across centuries. But the secret itself, the long view, remained locked behind a digital seal, classified until 2591. That file glowed red in the archives, a wound that would not be reopened for another 2 centuries. Beside it, the original withdrawal order sat in its frame. The ink faded, but the weight of the choice still palpable. Some truths are too expensive to speak aloud. The cost of patience is measured in silence. The plaque offered no explanation, only a statement. And perhaps that was the only truth the galaxy needed to hear. Longview remained classified for another 2 centuries. Some things are too expensive to speak of. The rest was silence.